Don't panic, there's nothing to see here. Well, at least that's what the government's saying. At the same time, the media is giving us a minute-by-minute account on how the whole world's turning to custard. And I'm not talking about the yellow type, I'm talking about the thick, black, oil type of burning custard that you probably don't want to eat. But it's vital to keep your car going and probably the whole world. And it hasn't stopped raining here for 4 days solid, so it's making the apocalypse feeling even worse. I think that's enough. I don't have any more containers. What do you reckon? I suppose every little bit's worth it, isn't it? Nah. I'll bugger it. Oh my God, look at the prices. So how prepared are you really to get through a crisis? Can you bunker down and ride out the storm? Or are you going to be using hand towel as toilet paper because you've got to get to the supermarket in time? Again. Yes, it's happened to us all, hasn't it? This is going to cost a small fortune. I decided against the bottles. What am I doing in this time of heightened anxiety? Because there's more to panic about than just toilet paper. So I'm going to share with you my main secrets on why a worldwide crisis doesn't bother me as much anymore. Let's get into it. Yes, it's handy to stock up on fuel, but there's only so much of this resource that most people can hold, get enough containers for. And it's not something that you can really make yourself, can you? But most people can grow food, either in raised beds straight into the ground, which is very cost effective, or in raised planters or containers. Look at these little beauties. What can you do with 1,000 pumpkins? Pumpkin roasted, pumpkin soup, pumpkin scones, Halloween. Let me know in the comments section below. I need your help. Just make sure you always have enough gardening supplies on hand to last through the panic buying and potential communist-style lockdowns, as if that's ever going to happen. The good news is that the growing season is here for most of the world. In the northern hemisphere, you guys are coming out of winter, and here in the southern hemisphere, most places are cooling down to a temperature just right to grow all those supermarket staples without getting crushed by the heat and humidity. The number one crop to start now, just about everywhere in the world, is tomatoes. Here in the southern hemisphere, in a warmer climate, the weather's cooling down. There's enough in autumn for those tomatoes to skyrocket and get to a good maturity through the heat that's left, for those tomatoes to be then providing fruit through winter. And in the northern hemisphere, yes, I know it's probably still frosting over in a lot of places, so you want to sow them indoors, let them grow a little bit, get them strong, maybe under grow lights, and then plant them out and get a good head start on your crop so that it'll grow well through your spring and summer. Now, the reason I love tomatoes is because it's the base for so many recipes. It's a food flavor adder. Tomatoes are extremely nutritious as well. And they're so versatile. I mean, you can have them on toast with cheese, you can have them on pizza, you can make pizza sauce, you can make pasta sauce, you can dehydrate them, they're easy to preserve. So if you have a glut, it won't go to waste. And the other amazing fact about tomatoes is the more that you cook them or heat them up, the better they are for you. I won't get into the technical details of it, but you can look it up. Tomatoes are actually better when they're cooked, whereas a lot of other vegetables and fruits lose some nutrition when they are cooked. The other thing you can be growing is salad crops. I mean, they're fast as. This Egyptian spinach here is something that we grow through our summer because it's too hot to grow other crops. But now we're heading into cooler weather. Well, lettuce, radicchio, radishes, and all those Asian greens can be grown, and they will grow fast, so that if you want some good vegetables and salad crops to combat the expensive prices in the supermarkets, well, you can get up and running quick smart with salads. And just like that, the sun's come out and my hair's dry. It's much easier than doing it in the rain. But if you want to be serious about food preparation and growing your own food, fruit trees is something that you really should invest in. You plant once and it will feed you season after season. Yes, it might take a few years for them to get established, but then after that, you'll be getting more fruit than you really need. The key things with fruit trees is to pick something that you obviously like to eat, but that grows strong in whatever environment or climate that you're in. When it comes to the veggie garden, well, I would recommend you grow carbs. Things like potatoes, sweet potato, taro, purple yam, yacon, cassava, jicama, all sorts of gourds. There are a heap of carbs that you can grow besides potatoes. So that's important. And a lot of these carbs, Jerusalem artichoke is another one that comes to mind. These fellas are perennials, meaning you can keep growing them over and over again without having to replant them like an annual, like potatoes. You can keep them in the garden and they will just keep producing for you. And a lot of these yams, like purple yam and cassava, sweet potato even, especially in warm climates, they will just keep multiplying in your garden year after year. Why carbs? Well, because carbs are high in calories. That's what you need in an apocalyptic situation. You need to eat foods that are calorie dense to get you through. Oh, but Mark, I'm a carnivore. I only eat ribeye for breakfast, lunch and dinner. What am I supposed to do? Good luck with that. Meat is expensive to buy and it's hard to get and harder to grow for most people, especially in a crisis. Eggs and veggies are something anyone can grow. And if you need to get meat in a hurry, there are really only two options: either hunt for it or grow something like rabbits or even more realistic, poultry. Quail, chickens, ducks, they grow fast, they take up minimal space and are much easier to raise than other animals like cows, sheep or pigs. The good thing about growing veggies like this is they grow fast and you don't have to chase it down, catch it, dispatch it to eat it. The only other thing I'd say about growing food is make sure you have a good seed collection. Know how to save your own seeds. Like when COVID hit, you couldn't get seeds anywhere because they were sold out in weeks. So having a good seed collection, or a seed vault as some people call it, in a nice cool place, somewhere out of the elements, somewhere where the temperature stays fairly constant, that's a good place to store your seeds. So that when tough times do hit, you're already ahead of that game and you can already use what you have in stock rather than trying to source seeds when they're in higher demand. Another thing that's good to be prepared with or be self-sufficient in, and that's power. These days with the technology we've got, like these batteries, it's quite easy to be self-sufficient with a stack of solar panels on a small home and a couple of nice big batteries. most people and families will find that they can easily power their homes and then have plenty in reserve. In our case, we've only just recently got this solar system installed. You might have seen my video, Self-Sufficient Power, that I uploaded just recently. And we've got a very hungry home when it comes to using electricity. So we've had to install quite a large system. But this, what I call mega system, is giving us the capability of being self-sufficient in power, be blackout proof, which is another thing that helps with anxiety, to know that you can power your home when the power or the grid is down. And as electricity prices just keep rising, and with this problem over in the Middle East, it's just another excuse to put up energy prices even further. So even being half self-sufficient, if you like, in electricity is going to give some big savings, I believe, in the future. There are other things you can do as well. If you can't afford a whole big system for your home, batteries and solar, you can get these portable power sources now that can power parts of your home, or even most of it, or at least boil a kettle or cook up a meal, or power a fridge in case of an extended power outage so that your food doesn't go off. Of course, there's always generators, and I've got a couple of them too as a fallback. All these types of things can help you have energy when a crisis hits. Another critical resource that's going up and up in cost is, you guessed it, water. And I think the next crisis will be one that is a water shortage. Even though we've seen a lot of rain lately, the fact is that our politicians and local officials aren't building enough dams and storage facilities to hold enough water to meet the population that is coming into most Western countries. So that's why I recommend at least storage of a tank for rainwater. If you can, get a bore. I've recently had to have our whole bore, or well as you call it in the States, infrastructure refurbished. The cut in the concrete here is from some recent work that we needed to do to fix up the piping, and we had to basically change our whole internal pump and all the wiring, because the bore on our property is close to 30 years old now. So it all had to be redone. But the cost of getting that redone and having basically a tap into an underground aquifer, like a big tank underneath your home that you can tap into so that you can have water whenever you need it, gives you such a peace of mind. It's totally worth it. Now, I know not everyone can put down a bore on their property, but there are lots of ways you can capture water from your home, so that if you are in a crisis and the grid water goes down, which can happen, or it gets contaminated and the water supply gets cut, in a time of need, you can be self-sufficient in water for at least a few days, if not longer. And lastly, a few other things to think about when it comes to being prepared, and this is really easy, and that is medical and healthcare. Make sure that you've got first aid kits available, you've got a heap of medication. I mean, you don't have to stock up like crazy, but you need to have the basics there. And if you've got prescriptions, make sure that they're mostly up to date as well, so that you've got at least a few weeks in supply. Things like sanitation, soap, toilet paper, dare I say it, is something that you might want to have on hand because it is a sanitary type thing. Security and community, make sure your home and property are secure, like even a good fence shows property boundaries. A dog is a good deterrent and an early warning. Security cameras, good lighting, make sure you've got a flashlight or torches that work and are good and powerful, and know your neighbours. You don't have to be in their pockets, you don't have to be real buddies with them, having a barbecue every weekend, but just knowing your neighbours is that sense of community where you can communicate with each other, find out what's going on, and maybe even in a time of crisis, you can barter, swap things. They might grow good potatoes, you might have pumpkins that you can swap, or that you can call on to get a hand when you need to maybe lift something or move something, or just general support when all communications are down. Your local community, especially your adjoining neighbours, are most important. Having a basic collection of tools is also imperative. I mean, you might not be the best DIYer in the world, but you should know the basics of DIY. Change light bulbs, throw some wire around something to hold it down, or to fix a fence, chop some wood, those types of things. You should learn yourself over time so that you have those skills when you do need it. Having the basic tools on hand is going to allow you some form of autonomy when things go wrong, because you're not just going to be able to call out a technician to your place. And in a time of crisis, you might find even if they are available, everyone wants them. And the last thing I'll bring up is communication. Things like make sure you've got a radio on hand, a portable radio with batteries, so that you can listen to what's going on around the world and in your community in case the TV networks go down or you don't have any power. Handheld radios are handy, so if the mobile network goes down, you can still communicate with each other. Some of these devices are really reasonably priced and you can get a lot of range out of them, 20 plus kilometers. So if you need to go out or someone from your family needs to go out and everything is down, well, then you can still communicate with them while they're out and about and have regular check-ins to know that they're safe. In fact, I don't have a CB radio myself, and so this is something that I'm going to seriously look into. I think it'd be good to have on the boat as well for when we're out at sea. Even though the boat has its own radio, you never know if everything goes down on your boat and you don't have any comms at all. It's handy to have one of those portable devices. And I'm sure there are other things that you can do to prepare for a crisis, an unexpected apocalyptic breakdown of society, or whatever it is, or even if it's just a lockdown for a few days, God forbid, or a war in some foreign country that's affecting everyone across the globe. The more prepared you can get, the less panic and stress you will feel, and this peace of mind is just as important as getting through whatever the crisis is the world throws up next. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you give it a big crisis apocalyptic thumbs up, share it around and subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye for now. Cheers. Good luck out there.